Joining us now with reaction to what has been a very busy news week, Harvard Law professor Alan Dershowitz and South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace, as well as Fox News legal analyst Gregg Jarrett. There's a lot to unpack here. I know it can seem like so many different pieces. Gregg, we'll start with you when it comes to what is being investigated and what is not, and about presidential aides. But aren't we looking here, especially when we think about the pseudonyms? This was a dynamic when Biden was vice president, conducting official business under an assumed name with a government account. And what does this say, Gregg, when it comes to what else may be happening? And frankly, what is Biden doing now? Is that a behavior that you stop utilizing?
No, it's not. And if Joe Biden was using aliases to funnel privileged government information to his son, who was then handing it off to his foreign business partners, his benefactors, lavishing tens of millions of dollars on him, then it simply underscores the Biden family corruption and Joe Biden's direct complicity in his son's influence peddling schemes, which are defined in the criminal codes as bribery. You know, we already know from Devon Archer that the Bidens were selling access to Joe and promises of influence. And you don't have to, under the law, show that Joe Biden was paid a penny of it. The law says if it goes to another person or entity, such as shell companies, it's still bribery. And Joe Biden doesn't have to deliver on any of the promises, though he did so for Burisma, because the promise itself is bribery under the criminal codes, under the statutes.
An extraordinary time. Congresswoman Mace, you're on the Oversight Committee, lots of investigations about Hunter, but in a way it really hasn't been about Hunter, right? This is the first step on a stairway that when we're looking at the involvement of the senator, the vice president, now president, is this significant to you that we're finding an effort by Joe Biden to evade detection with certain behavior?
Oh, it's huge. And when you look at the lies that he's told over the last couple of years, denial of everything, it just corroborates the information we've already collected. And if you look at what the mainstream media and the left is doing, they're saying that all of this is perfectly normal, but the average American knows it's anything but. And on the Oversight Committee, I want to see every single aide associated with Joe Biden, every single business partner, business associate associated with the Biden family, every single witness subpoenaed to come before the Oversight Committee and give their testimony, because none of this is adding up, and the average American knows that it's not. And we're not allowed to share, for example, the suspicious activity reports because they're confidential. But Tammy, if I could share the amount of money that we're talking about in money laundering, it is astronomical. It would blow your mind to know the amount of money that we're talking about here that was laundered through dozens and dozens of shell companies. None of this happens without Joe Biden. And it ought to be investigated to the fullest extent of the law, refer charges, and we ought not to see the DOJ, FBI, and IRS continue to obfuscate and obstruct our investigation. And I know that the American people, they have very little trust and faith in Congress. We haven't given them much reason to, but trust the evidence that comes out of our committees and make their decision themselves over the next couple of months, the next year or so, on whether or not this guy should be president, on whether or not the tens of millions, north of 50 million, I would argue, that he sold out his country for to our adversaries. None of it's adding up.
Yeah, Professor Dershowitz, I mean, perhaps one of the little bit of a statement that this, has been going on forever or is normal, in a way could be true, right? You've got Hunter Biden's lawyer, I think it was Abby Lowell, saying that all of this is too complicated to explain, and people have been doing this for millennia. Well, people have been doing a lot of bad things for thousands of years. It doesn't mean that we should accept it as normal. Do you see this as something that is suddenly going to, break this wall of what seems to be Biden corruption for perhaps, as far as we know, maybe even up to 50 years, his entire career? Is this normal for Washington, and are we just finding out?
Well, it pains me to say this because I like Joe Biden. I've known him for 40 years. I'd like to vote for him in the next election. But the time has come to appoint an independent outside special counsel to investigate the relationship between Hunter Biden and President Biden. There's already a special counsel on the classified material, but that's totally different. In fact, if I were Joe Biden, I would be calling for a special counsel to take this case out of partisan House of Representatives, to bring it to somebody who is beyond any reproach, a great, former president of a university, dean of a law school, somebody who can look at this thing. It is very complicated, and you need to look at it with a totally clear, objective eye. The allegations are serious, but the evidence has to back up the allegations. And a special outside counsel can do this. In my book, I wrote a book about this called Get Trump. I call for an independent special counsel balanced on all sides. I'm not rooting for anybody here. I want to see full and equal justice done. I want to see everything that's happening on one side happening on the other. And I think that a special counsel at this point, I advocated previously, but at this point, enough there to appoint the special independent counsel. And it should be somebody who has the approval of Republicans and Democrats alike.
Well, see, that of course would be the thing to do, but because they aren't looking for a solution or a real investigation, Gregg, is why that's not happening. Of course, that's the normal thing to do. What would be the right thing to do? Gregg, isn't the point of all of this to just delay? Because they've been able to do it from the start. With Trump, they're able to move things through, and they want, trials in 2 months, and they want it all done by a certain date. They got a fire lit under them. But in this case, they want to have no fire. It seems like that's what's manifesting here.
It's a cover-up, and it's a protection racket, and Merrick Garland has now doubled down on it by appointing the last person in the world who should be special counsel, David Weiss. I mean, this is the guy who allowed statute of limitations to run during the course of his 5-year investigation, tipped off Hunter Biden's lawyers, ripped up an agreement by investigators and prosecutors to charge 6 serious felonies against Hunter Biden, which would have implicated Joe Biden as complicit in the schemes. This is the guy, who scuttled search warrants. I mean, the list goes on and on about his political interference, and he will not experience some sudden epiphany and decide to do the right thing and file the charges that are merited. I'd rather bet on a lame horse.
Congresswoman Mace, people have been discussing, Jonathan Turley, Sir Andy McCarthy, I think everyone here, how that appointment of Weiss himself is, against the regulations. When we look to Congress, we're thinking, is there no recourse to this? Is there something that can be done with this being so obviously political? Or do you think that Congress's hands are tied? I mean, what can the American people expect when it comes to action to at least push back with some of this stuff?
Well, we know that the Oversight Committee, we're going to push forward. We're going to continue our investigation. Our concern today is that the appointment of David Weiss is going to slow down the investigation. That is a very realistic concern. We've already seen before David Weiss's appointment, we've seen the FBI and DOJ slow down their responses when we've sent in inquiries. It took us months to get the 1-1023 document, which showed, by the way, the Ukrainians, Burisma executives were so proud of all the layering and complicated ways that they funneled money to bribe Hunter and Joe Biden. They said it would take the U.S. government 10 years to figure out where the money came from and where it went. Well, we know where it went, in the back pocket of Joe Biden, but they created a very complicated system that has been slowed down by allies of Joe Biden. It'll slow the Oversight Committee down, but we're still going to push forward.
Professor, you'd think people think that Congress has some power and can tell Biden that they're not going to pass certain things. They can stop the approval of nominees and of judges. Isn't there something that you would suggest that, Professor Dershowitz, that could actually get some motion going here so that there's some kind of a back and forth about what's appropriate?
Well, it's important to have Congress serve as a check and balance on the executive. But when you have 2 people running for president, and essentially this is at this point a 2-person race, and one of them, Donald Trump, has special counsel for indictments interfering with his campaigning, you have to lean over backwards to make sure that the other candidate is treated equally, even if it's a close question. A special counsel should be appointed in the case of the current president of the United States in order to level the playing field, in order to make sure that the public doesn't perceive this as unequal justice, as different standards on one side than the other.
Yeah,
I don't know how it will come out. But if I were Joe Biden, I would say, bring it on, especially if he's innocent, bring it on. Special counsel will help me because it will be neutral and objective. That's what the American public.
That's what we want, and clearly I think we would all agree that we're not exactly there. The Democratic Party is going to have to step up if they want to have some kind of normalcy in the process of all of this happening. Thank you all. Congresswoman Mace, Alan Dershowitz, Gregg Jarrett, I appreciate it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.